about. I mean, just because you get all the equipment, you think you know what's going on. That's why I say gun shows. I don't go to gun shows because people buy a gun, they think, well, now I can protect myself. So they have no idea what kind of dangers are out there. They think the gun is going to protect themselves. I talk about also on this trip. I took a tomahawk. I did a lot of testing, and one of the things I did is I took a tomahawk. I wanted to see if I could conceal a tomahawk, and so I concealed carry a tomahawk, and through international travel, and I was able to do it, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to check to see if I could do it. I wasn't even sure if I could get away with it, and I did. And so there's, and also I had it's a backpack halfway between a backpack and duffel bag. I had made for me, special made. It has hidden compartments in it, and it was just set up the way I thought it would be good, and I knew I was going to have to. It was just a prototype, so I know I'm going to have to redo it. And but the thing is, this is a good place to have some. But I found no good materials. I was going to do it out of leather, but then I ended up doing it out of some waterproof stuff, and I wanted to test it. That was another reason why I went on this trip. Like I say, I didn't have my own wheels. I was dependent on others. So, like I say, it was a little kind of a different kind of thing. And but I say my bag worked well. I saw what the tourists were using, and you could tell they were tourists because half of them, the bags they were using, it wasn't the kind of bags they should be doing in this type of travel. I mean, like your wheeled stuff is not going to work. A lot of times also, I see people with a backpack, big backpack, and they got a small backpack on the front. And I'm thinking, boy, man, that's a load. And I'm not quite sure about that either. I had all of my belongings. Remember, my whole life revolves around my car. Everything I own is in my car. And I know most people, everything they own is in their house or on their property and stuff like that. For me, it's my car. Now, when this trip, I also experimented with everything in my life revolved around what was in my backpack. And now, and one thing I didn't do this trip, I didn't work on anybody with the Hoi Chi. And that helped me understand a little more too. And as a traveler, I always help a lot of people as a traveler, because as a travelers, they need assistance from others. What makes me a very good traveler is I've got skills that makes me be assistance to the locals. And but when you are a tourist, it's a little different. Like I say, the tourists don't trust anybody. Nobody wanted to even try the Hoi Chi, and I thought that was kind of odd. So I let people be in pain. You can stay in pain all you want. I don't care. It's your business, your life. But if you want to do something about it, I want to help you. And I noticed this trip, nobody. They just when they're tourists, you find everything on their good side. Everything is on their good side as a tourist. You don't have problems. You don't have aches and pains. And why? Because they all have money. And as a traveler, you don't always have money. And I talk about that. I mean, I don't have hardly any money. And I like I say, I don't need money. As tourists, they have to have money. And so that's one thing I noticed. They all had not only their credit cards, but they all had cash. And so it was just a little more than I had to evaluate than what I wasn't expecting a lot of this stuff. So, and then like I say, seeing it, doing it firsthand really made me have to evaluate. Talking about that, another thing I learned, I mentioned I have dyslexia. I can't read properly. My mind is really different. And now, when I was younger, yeah, everybody said, you're stupid, you're all this kind of stuff, but and it took a lot of ridicule. But it didn't make any difference. I was able to block everybody out because I know they don't know what they're talking about. And the one thing I learned on this trip, see, I wasn't driving. I was in the shuttle. I was watching. And man, I'll tell you, my neck was hurting because all I did was just, well, I mean, there was just so much to see. Because when I'm driving, I'm focused on the road. That's all I do is focus on the road. Now, now, you got to remember, I said, if you have a problem, it's going to be a very, very bad problem. And I started thinking about it. I have driven 125,000 miles in my car, and that's within 4 years. I've driven that much in 4 years. I drove 60,000 miles on 2 motorcycles, and I haven't had any, I wish I could say I haven't had any accidents, but I had one motorcycle accident where I went to ride up in the mountains. So that's not even a mountain, but we got mountains around here. But I went up riding in the mountains, and that's when I wrecked and broke my arms, some ribs, and my back. And so I had that one. And then in a car, it was a pickup. I had a pickup. Well, no, one was in a car, one was in a pickup. But anyway, I'm taking pictures, I'm videoing, and then the car rolls and I hit somebody, just kind of bump up against them twice in Mexico. So, but those are really about the only things that I've had wrong. And like I say, and when I wrecked the motorcycle, I was here and my wife was alive. That's why you don't see me riding a motorcycle anymore, because she had to take care of me while I healed. And now if I get in a motorcycle wreck, nobody's going to take care of me when I heal. So that's why I don't run on motorcycles. But the thing is, I've traveled that much, but always I'm focused on the road. That's the point. And so when I was in the shuttle, I could look around. And man, I looked and I saw things. The same road that I travel on all the time, now I can look on what's going on both sides. And man, I mean, I saw waterways that I didn't know existed. One of the biggest things I saw was, you remember, there's lots of volcanoes around here. We have earthquakes. It's really wild. And one thing I was looking at, the mountains, you could see the rocks are on an angle. You see the way they're, and it's the where the crust of the earth is pushing those mountains up, and I was able to see all that stuff. Now, and that's another thing that I realized. I see this, I know this, I understand this. Why? And why is it? I used to be in the oil business. In the oil business, I had to learn a lot of stuff. I learned electric stuff. I learned plumbing. Of course, I had to be a mechanic. I started with nothing. I ended up with 100 oil wells, and I serviced all my oil wells. I serviced other people's oil wells. I had turned out to be a big business. And one of the other things I learned was geology. I learned the earth, how the earth works. And now I'll admit I'm not a geologist because they learn all kinds of stuff. What I learned is specifically what I needed to learn to find oil in my area. And so that's what I learned, the stuff that I could apply. And so, but the thing is, I was able to see these mountains the way they are. And now it makes sense to me more about how the crust of the earth works. and just stuff like that. But I'm able to watch and see. And I'm talking about the waterways. It reminded me of the same thing, the oil, trying to pump oil in different ways, water tanks they had set up. Just all kinds of things I was able to see and learn. But what got me, talking about my dyslexia stuff, is that's why I admire people that can read. You can read a book and you can learn stuff. I have to get my hands dirty. I have to put myself in danger for me to learn what you can just sit home and read about and learn. I have to get out and, like I say, experience this stuff. That's how I learn. And when I'm sitting there in the shuttle and we're driving and I'm looking, it reminded me of what I would think somebody that is reading a really good book. And you can't put it down. I've heard people say, "Oh man, I can't put this book down. It's just so interesting." And it's the same thing when I was in the shuttle going along, because I'm learning visually. I can learn. I can see all this stuff going and stuff that I didn't realize was there. And so I'm being overwhelmed with information, and I'm still adding this information up, trying to figure out what it was I saw, because I seen so much. Like I say, it was just overwhelming. And this is why I wish I didn't travel by myself. Because when I'm traveling with others, then I can stop and I can go in and investigate it even more. And especially if I'm traveling with somebody that can speak the language, then I can ask questions. And that will help me understand what it is I'm seeing. Because like I say, I see so much stuff. I mean, stuff that you just can't see. I talk about my community in Oklahoma. It's a lovely community. We can grow, we can prosper, we can make our lives good. But it's not the same as what all these places that I go and see. And so I'm still learning all this stuff. And now when I go to my community in Oklahoma, I can apply the stuff that I have seen. And I understand how it works, and we can try it here. And that's what I'm saying. That's why one of the things that everybody says about me is, man, your brain just keeps working. You come up with all kinds of weird things. And the reason is I've experienced so many things. And, and I don't know if people do the same thing when they're reading or not. But like I say, since I can't read, I have to experience. And so I get stuff, I see things, and then like I say, I'm looking for a place I can apply it to. But like I say, these are things that you learn as being a traveler. And it's good that you be the tourist. I think you have to be a tourist to learn to be a traveler. I think that's a good way to learn to be a traveler.